Hello and welcome to another episode of the Flip the Mindset podcast, a platform of hope for people struggling with the pressures of modern day society. Today's guest is none other than the legendary John Hartson. This podcast is sponsored by Watson Plumbing and Heating Services, who provide heating service plans and can save you money on your heating appliances for less than a Netflix account. Check them out at www.watsonheating.co.uk. MMC Cleaning Services are a very reliable cleaning service who will take on any job, big or small. Check them out on Instagram at MMC_cleaning_service. And lastly, NY Slice is a New York pizza joint based in Sauchiehall Street, Glasgow. They provide a sit-in service, collection, delivery, and even corporate catering. Check them out on www.nyslice.com. Thanks for listening. Hello, welcome to the Flip the Mindset podcast. I am joined by Welsh international, Celtic and Arsenal footballer, along with many other clubs, John Hartson. Welcome to the podcast, John.
Thank you. Thanks, Kenny.
So I'm going to dive in here, right? There's two ex-players in Scotland who's played in Scotland. We need to address the elephant in the room. What happened with the medical for my beloved club, Rangers FC?
You want to start with that,
yeah,
didn't you?
Yes, got to start with that. I'm like that. They only played for us.
Well, back in the year 2000, we're talking 20 years ago now,
Yep.
I was playing for, I was at Coventry, and I was away on international duty representing my country, Wales.
Yep.
And Mark Hughes come and knocked my door and said that we've received a telegram. We were playing Estonia away for the national team.
Yep.
And Mark Hughes, the Welsh legend, the Welsh ex-Man United, he was my manager, come to the door and he said, look, John, he said, we've received a telegram to the hotel that Rangers have bid £6 million for you in 2000, 20 years ago.
Wow.
He said, and Sir David Murray is sending his private jet down to Cardiff Airport in the next couple of hours.
Welcome to Glasgow.
Yeah. And you've got to get on it, basically. Now, I had no allegiances at all. I had no allegiances to Rangers or Celtic. I'd only been to Scotland once in my life on a pre-season tour with West Ham, Harry Redknapp. We stayed in Stirling. We played a couple of friendlies. So I knew of Celtic and Rangers. I knew of the size of the clubs, you know, the volume of the support worldwide and everything else. But I quickly phoned my dad and I said, look, Dad, I'm going up to sign for Rangers. Mm-hmm. So I arrived I jumped on the plane with my dad. There was two staff. There was a pilot, of course. And that was it, me and my dad. So we went up 40 minutes. That's all it was, Cardiff to Glasgow. Mm-hmm. I arrived in Glasgow airport and it was like quite a weird experience really, because I'm sitting on the plane. We know you look into the window, and there was loads of press sort of up in the windows about 100 yards away. Before I jumped off the plane, we're on the runway, and I'm thinking, is that all for me? Why is Michael Jackson coming into something? You know,
you needed to reassess.
Just couldn't believe it. Yeah, you know, some of them had notepads, some had cameras, long lenses, and everything. So as I'm walking through the airport, it literally was one of them moments where, you know, when you see like players coming back from a World Cup win, or you know, all these stars that have caused a furore, or you know, there's had loads and loads of press and everything, done something mental. Yeah, well, not and it was literally, as I was walking through the airport, there was about 40 or 50 cameramen taking snaps, and it was £6 million, you know, at that particular time. It was an awful lot of money 20 years ago. So the welcome I had was like something else that I'd never experienced in my life. So quickly taken down to to Ibrox. I walk out onto the pitch and walking down the touch line, and Ronald Ebo is in the centre circle.
Yep.
And he's like that with his Rangers scarf.
Mm-hmm.
So I shouted over. I went, Rory, and he looked over. He went, I went, give me 2 minutes. I'll be with you. We'll do it together. You know. So I went in the dressing room. Albert, Kanchalskis, Bomber Brown. They were all there, and they quickly ushered me back into the car to take me to, I think it was Ross Hall Hospital, for a medical. And I had a scan on my knee, on my back. Came back to the ground. I'd agreed all terms with Sir David Murray in his office upstairs. I was signing a 5-year contract, signing for Glasgow Rangers. I'm 25 years of age.
Wow.
And I'm just about to put the pen to paper, and the doctor walked in, Dick Advocaat's obviously trusteed doctor.
Yep.
And he said, look, we can't complete the deal. The deal has to be off. There's something showed up on John's knee. And, you know, medically, he's not in the right condition with his knees. Mm-hmm. I never had a fitness test. I never did anything else. All I did was go from the ground in a taxi, joined by a Rangers, like one of their staff, to the hotel and back. And that was that. And then within half an hour, I was back on the plane with my dad, flying back home to Cardiff.
Wow. Is that not like, so what was wrong with the knee? What happened? Like, surely you...
Well, I had a small little operation at Wimbledon, they call it an arthroscopy.
Yep.
Where it's just like laser literally going through your knee and things like that. And I played all the games. I was doing all the training. I was doing all the running, the striking the balls. My knee seemed absolutely fine. But like everything else, if you look at a scan of somebody's knee that's had an operation, the scan will clearly see there's some damage on that scan that you can clearly see.
Yep.
You can watch me run there and you think, oh, he looks fit, he looks good, he's nothing wrong with his knee, he's moving well. But look at that scan and his knee looks, you know. So that's all I can put it down to. A lot of people have said to me, oh, do you think it was a bit of there was a few conspiracy theories around it? Do you think they just got you up maybe for publicity?
Yeah.
And I don't believe any of that. I actually believe that they did want to sign me, but there was a problem with the medical, so they couldn't fulfill, you know, the deal to put the medical through. And I don't think there was anything untoward that went on. I've always remained that with that belief in my head. But what was remarkable about it was about 6 months later, Rangers went and signed Torre Andre Flo. For I think it was like £11.5 million.
Record, wasn't it?
Yeah, and they were getting me for 6.
Yeah.
And you know,
that makes no sense.
I actually went on, Kenny, to do reasonably well against Rangers in the games that I played. I scored some goals against them, but it was one of them things. And I always think that you know, everything happens for a reason, and maybe, you know, it wasn't meant to be. You know, when we go on and talk about my cancer, I should have died. My prognosis was through the roof. I had testicular cancer that spread to my lungs. I had 2 brain operations, but I didn't die. Why didn't? Maybe I wasn't meant to die. You know, and I've always had that things happen for a reason, and maybe on that particular day I wasn't meant to join Rangers. I was meant to join Celtic. I'm a big believer in that. Without saying I'm overly religious, you know.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. Obviously, you know, I've been through my knee operations myself, and that ruined my football career. But and I know that feeling of that rejection. I'm not going to take a chance on you because we've seen the scan, the tissues in a state, your knees in a state. It's a bit like buying a car, isn't it? And it's been in a crash before. You know, if the car's good enough, you probably buy it. You know what I mean?
That's
I
right,
don't. For me, I don't understand why we didn't sign you, and that's honestly because. You know, you did go on to score against us.
I was actually sorry to cut across you there, but I was actually on a holiday in Marbella a few years later with my wife, and we were sitting in a restaurant, and Alec McLeish walked in with a crowd of his mates.
Oh wow!
And we were talking and a few glasses of wine, as you do in Marbella. And Alec McLeish actually said to me, he says, John, he said, if I'd have been manager of Rangers at that time, there is no way I would have left you leave that building without signing that contract. There is no way. If we got you in there, and because there's always a risk. There's always a risk. So managers sometimes can be a bit more choosy. They listen to their doctors, which they have to, I suppose, in different circumstances. But it was interesting that Big Ek had said to me that if I got a chance, I would have actually made the deal happen.
Well, I think, to be honest, I think all of us, any Rangers fan, whether they like you or not, would have wanted that deal to happen. Considering, and for what happened after it.
Well, it's not what they say now.
I watched a lot of games against, like when we were against you, when you scored against us. So it's that way where you've came down. You're 25. You're kind of coming into a man of football, but you're still a boy. You're not. And you came down here for a massive move, and then you're on the plane almost with the tail between your legs. What are you thinking then? What is going through your mind? How do you pick yourself up from that?
I was naturally very, very disappointed because I'd failed 3 previous medicals to that as well. I failed a medical at Spurs, Charlton and Coventry, and then Glasgow Rangers. So that's 4 medicals that I failed
in a row. Yeah.
So I'm starting to doubt myself, thinking, am I ever going to get through a medical? You start to have doubts. What have I got to do? This is not for. I was a big player in England. This is not for £100,000 or 50 grand. Yeah. This is for money. Record money.
Yep.
6-7 million pounds transfers plus wages and everything else.
You weren't scared of breaking them records.
Do you know what I mean? But it's like, maybe I'm going to have to bring the transfer fee down, or maybe I'm going to have to go and prove myself for a year and show my fitness, that my knees healthy and can cope with the general demands of training and playing every day. So all these things were going through my mind. And it was actually then Martin O'Neill. I was doing pre-season with Coventry at the time, with Gordon Strachan up at St Andrews University. And Martin O'Neill got in touch with me, the then Celtic manager. Yep. And he said, John, I hear you're up in St Andrews. I'm going to come up on Thursday with a contract. He said, don't worry about the medical. I know all about your medical history. I just want to put your mind at ease. I'm going to sign you. And the fee was £6 million. Yep. So straight away, Martin came up on the Thursday, signed for Celtic, and I went on to play 240 games, scoring 110 goals for Celtic. I think it was 9 or 10 of them against Rangers. So he just blew out all them conspiracy theories about medicals and scans and being overboard with players. Because if you look at goalkeepers, a goalkeeper wouldn't pass a medical if you scan their backs.
They were always the laziest, weren't they?
Yeah, but all their discs and everything can all be like poking out because they're diving around.
So they must alter the medicals for the goalkeepers then, do you think?
Well, I don't know.
What happens here?
I don't know. The Chelsea goalkeeper, I think, he's just joined for 70 million, so they're going for a few quid goalkeepers now.
There's no messing about with that medical.
No,
you know what I mean? They're probably not even taking that.
But then I signed for Celtic, so it just that made me, in that respect, then I had for Martin throughout the time I worked with him, because he took a chance on me when others didn't. Yeah. So I personally owed him that gratitude, really. So every time I played for him, he just got that little bit extra out of me, because psychologically he was the one that didn't leave me on that scrap heap, that gave me the opportunity that I needed to go into my peak years then of 26. I stayed at Celtic until I was 30, 31. 5 years I was there, and 4 of them was under Martin. So straight away, he's made me think positive. I'm going to get that shirt on. I'm going to get the medical sorted out, and I then became a Celtic player.
I mean, it's really interesting as well, because people, for a lot of young footballers watching the Flip Mindset podcast, when you are growing up, sometimes with a manager, they might not instill that trust in you, or make you feel like Martin did, because that's not just when he's took you on, he's gave you a new platform, but
he's put himself in a position that if this don't work out, he's going to get criticism from his own board. Yeah.
So he's put everything, he's put his job in the line to sign you, and that makes you don't owe him, but you respect him.
Absolutely.
And that can be game changers, and probably why you went on to do so well.
Well, there you go. And as I said, there was other managers like Mark Hughes with Wales, where I always responded to Mark Hughes, and I think you make a great point, and that is absolutely true. If there's, you haven't got to be best friends, but if there's equal trust there, and I think you will go that extra yard for managers that particularly give you a chance.
Yeah.
Play you when you're not quite at your best.
Mm-hmm.
Things like this, rather than the ones that just throw you under the bus when you don't play well.
And that is football for a lot of people. I mean, when I was at an Athletic, I didn't have that trust from the manager because he kept saying my knee pain was all in my head. And then 4 operations later, look at me. But I went to Queen's Park after my 3rd operation, and Gus McPherson, he phoned me up and he says, listen, come for a coffee at Costa. So I went to meet him and we sat down and he says, listen, I've seen you play. You scored 7 goals against us in whatever games. He says, I know your knee's been in bad shape. How are you feeling now? Okay, let's get you in training. He says, don't worry about everything else. Do you know what I mean? Don't worry about contracts. Don't worry about this. Get you in training. Have fun. Tell you right now, Ken, if you want to sign the contract, it's there. But let's not worry. Just come in. I want you. And see, when he said that to me, I'm thinking,
yeah.
I'm taking a big back of rocks off my shoulders.
It does.
I love him. You're almost thinking, I'm going to play for you. I'm going. So in training, I was totally different. Training, I'm going 100%. And that's a big thing, because a lot of players I've seen growing up, I'm sure yourself, I've not had the relationship with the manager, and it's kind of made their career go on a different path. Yeah.
And you need a bit of luck. I think in life, you need that little bit of a lucky break. You need a turn. Not just in football, but in any industry, in any job. I think if you're a young cashier at the bank, and then there's a bank manager that comes in, and all of a sudden looks at you, watches your work, you go, tell you what, I'll turn you from a cashier. I'll give you an upgrade. I'll raise your pay, and I'll make you a personal banker. You can have your own office.
Yep.
Your yearly fee, your yearly wages go through the roof in terms of what you were earning. Why did he do that? Why did he do it to you and not you? It's just because sometimes it's the right place, right time, little bit of luck,
connection,
these type of things. I'm a big believer in that.
I am. I'm a massive believer in that as well, and that's a good thing of forgiveness for the past. Okay, it didn't go well at Rangers, but that happened, and then it was the right time to sign for Celtic, and then it exploded. So we'll go back to the start. So Luton as a boy, signed for Luton. After Luton, you went to West Ham.
Well, Arsenal.
Sorry. You signed for Arsenal, record-breaking fee at only 19. 19 years old.
I know.
That's pretty crazy. Then you went to West Ham, Wimbledon, Coventry, Celtic, and then obviously West Brom, and on loan at Norwich. That's when. So we'll talk more about the first part. Growing up, how did you manage that way? Like you say, it's luck as well. There's a wee bit of luck involved. There's hard work involved and stuff like that. What made you make it? For me, I wanted to make it for my friends and family, and I just loved the game.
Yes.
But what was your purpose? What was your reason at the time?
Well, I was similar. I'm from a council estate in Swansea. I was just obsessed. I was obsessed with the round ball. Wales's number one sport is rugby.
Yeah.
So all the schools have rugby teams. My school didn't have a football team, but I played outside of school.
Right.
And predominantly, they want to encourage rugby players. That's produce some unbelievable rugby players. Produce 1 or 2 decent footballers as well. But I was obsessed. My dad played at a decent level, but never quite made it professionally. And to be honest with you, it frightens me to think what I would have done if I hadn't have got that chance to go to Luton to become a professional footballer. I know I worked hard for that, and I sacrificed a lot of things as a teenager. I would go training, and my dad would say to me, go down the gym, and he sent me to boxing, not to have a fight, but the boxing training was brilliant for building you up and giving you that little bit of encouragement and everything else.
On it as well.
Yeah, and you've got the boxing trainer saying, right, go on, put your gloves on. Yep. You've got to go in with him. He's a stone heavier than you, and you're getting bashed out.
You're not a footballer in the boxing gym.
And you're 12 or 13 years of age.
You're just a wee guy in the boxing gym.
And that's why there was a method in that madness, really, for me. And I sacrificed a lot, and then I got the opportunity to go to Luton, and for me, what makes you do it is that you have a personal desire to get to where you want to be, and nothing is going to stop you. Now if sometimes you get stopped in your tracks and you don't do it, then that has to be not through me giving absolutely everything that I've got in my powers. I'm my own self. for that not to happen, it's certainly not going to be through me, because I'm going to give everything I've got, you know?
Yeah, no, I totally get that. I think
that type of thing.
That visualisation as well. It's all I thought about when I was young. What am I going to do when I play for this club? What am I going to do when I play for that club? Like, imagine I'm just going to score that goal for Rangers, or I'm going to do this, you know? And that constant, it wasn't just like once a week. Every day you're in school going, oh man, I'm going to practice that wee bit, because, you know, I seen Ronaldo, Brazilian Ronaldo do it, and all that stuff, and that kind of constant, you know.
Well, definitely. And I think, you know, when I was 16 in Luton's youth team, and the manager 16, 17, I used to be playing youth team football. I'd moved home. I'd moved 300 miles up the motorway up to Bedfordshire, near Luton. I'd moved into digs with a couple there, a couple of kids that I was staying with at the time. They become like second parents to me, if you like.
Amazing.
And I think it makes you grow up a little bit, makes you become a man almost overnight.
Yeah.
Because you're not at home getting your mum and dad's cooking and their attention and their love, if you like, and it's all nicey, you know. Yeah. I had to move away, live with another couple, and get myself into the training ground every day through a bus, or however way I used to have to do it. You know, just that little bit of, and I think as well, it gives you that little bit of freedom away from your parents.
Yep, it does. Yeah.
You know, and you can go and do a few things with your mates, and your parents are not getting on top of you and things like this. So it worked out brilliantly for me anyway, moving away from Swansea up to Luton to start my professional career, if you like. But like everything else, it's easy for me to sit here with young kids watching and everything else, and wanting to listen and take something from this. But it's easy me saying, well, I had that desire, I had that attitude, that winning mentality, that working hard mentality. But sometimes you can still fail. You know, sometimes you can still fail. Yep. But if you instill that there's nothing that's going to stop me, that there's something in the pit of your stomach there that separates you from the rest.
Yeah. Then have a fire in the belly, innit?
Exactly. But I think you've got to have that.
Yeah.
And especially nowadays as well, because there's a lot of good footballers out there now, but they haven't got that desire and work ethic. Yeah. I think teams now would take runners and players who work hard and players who have desire, even more so than if they show a little bit of talent.
Absolutely. They would take an average player over a hard-working average player over a skilled one.
And if they're like, you know, they kick their granny to win a tackle type of thing. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. They cover every blade of grass.
We see that a lot.
Not as much talent as the lazy one up there. Yeah. He is magnificent, but he's very lazy. He doesn't track back. He doesn't listen to what the coaches are saying. And if there's somebody else with an incredible desire to make it, to run, to get fit, to chase
that's
back,
the difference.
Then generally, I've watched it with the academy at Swansea. I've seen it with my own two eyes. They will take the grafters, the workers, and especially the ones who actually get released, you know, at 16, the ones then who want to bounce back and not give up and say, I'm a bit disillusioned with it all now, because that happens a lot as well. Yeah. You've got to keep going.
That reminds me of Andy Robertson, who's at Liverpool now. Yeah. Seen him at Queen's Park. He was never the best in the team. No. And then just hard work every summer as well, just every season, every summer, listen, took it in, enjoyed it. He was football daft.
Yeah, I watched Andy at Dundee United actually, and then he went to Hull, Dundee United with Jackie McNamara. Yeah. And then Hull, and then obviously gets a great move to Liverpool, and he's arguably one of the best left backs in the world now.
If not the best. Yeah. So you're a player, you're a young man, a young boy playing at Luton. Right? How did you go from a young boy playing at Luton to breaking a transfer record to signing to one of the most iconic clubs in the world? Where are you there? Where's your mindset?
Well, where are you? Again, I always go back and think, well, you know, I think I was in a bit of a bubble at the time. You know, I was in a bit of a bubble. As you say, 1 minute I'm living in digs, I'm playing for Luton. I was on £29.50 a week, apprenticeship wage.
Wow.
And then I go to Arsenal, I jump on to about 10 times that much. I could start affording a couple of suits now and things like that. You know, I'm spending a bit more than maybe I should. I can get, it was a great experience. It happened very, very quickly because George Graham wanted to get it over the line in terms of I went to see him at Highbury on a Thursday, and Alan Smith had he had a bad knee.
Yeah,
he couldn't play. Kevin Campbell had torn his hamstring. So George Graham said to me, if you sign for me today, John, he says, you'll play with Ian Wright out there on Saturday, which was the England centre forward at the time.
Yep.
So I basically said, well, where's the contract?
Yeah, sign it.
It wasn't about the money. I was 19, and I think at that age, you're not really thinking about the money because you're starting out a career. You're happy with having a bit more in your account. Of course you are. But you know then if you progress and you do well, the money will come naturally.
Yeah, the money will come. So then it's surely about starting, for young people watching, again, young footballers, surely it's then about starting to think more professionally. I need to work harder. You know, I need to push myself a bit more. You know what I mean? I can secure something special here. And I need to start trying to have more fun with the game because there is a lot of professional footballers I've talked to through Inflict the Mindset who don't really like football. I think the famous one was it Amy Obi, or he came out. Who was it that came out and said he hates football? I'm just good at it.
I know a few people like that as well.
Actually. And you got them in the changing room. They hated everything about football. They hated the seriousness of it, the seriousness of it. They hated everything, but they were great.
They were great.
They were great at it.
But I think as well, playing with, no disrespect to the players at Luton, but playing with the likes of Ian Wright, Dennis Bergkamp, Paul Merson, you know, the England captain, Tony Adams, David Seaman.
Yep.
These were serious professionals, you know, internationals, and they were winners as well.
Yep.
So Arsenal, that team had won doubles and been very successful under George Graham when I arrived.
Absolutely.
And George was a disciplinarian as well. So the training, you know, the level of training, the standard was incredible.
Yep.
You know, if Paul Merson's playing it into me, I've got to keep hold of it. I can't be giving it away, you know. No, it was a wonderful experience. As I said, I was 19 years of age. I'm 45 now. It was a long time ago. Now 26 years ago.
Well, it is, aye.
So,
it's nearly my full age.
Oh, tell me about it. I've had a couple of. I've had my brain sort of cut into a few times. So I've got to remember back.
Listen, you can almost say you're living again.
Yeah.
You know, of what you've been through, John. So you've got iconic players at Liverpool, right? And then Graham gets. So you're saying the tempo's flying out.
George
leaves,
Graham,
he gets sacked, right?
Yes,
so
he does. Yeah.
Arsene Wenger comes in. Arsene, amazing guy. So it almost as if the things started to change and it became more continental of it.
Yeah.
Kind of like.
Well, he was brilliant.
How was that? Because I know from being in the changing room, when someone new comes in, all the players are like, oh, he's doing this, he's doing that. And sometimes it can go a wee bit, you know what I mean? And how was that change? That's a massive change.
Well, Kenny, nobody really knew who he was. He was coming from Japan, I believe, Grampus 8, Japanese team. He managed at Monaco as well. Managed Glenn Hoddle and some other players at Monaco, maybe Mark Haitley as well, I think might have been at Monaco at the time. So nobody knew who he was, and he looked like a professor. Yeah. You know, he had glasses on. He literally looked like he could have been a doctor or something like that.
Not
your typical football manager, you know, whatever football managers are meant to look like. But no, he came in straight away, and his training methods become brilliant. Everything was done, everything was organised. The training ground would be you know, when we were training would be look like a runway at times. There were so many cones and bibs and things on it. So we'd all turn up. Everything was planned before we got there, the players. Yep. So the manager and his staff would have been out there preparing the session. Mm-hmm. Everything was done by a watch. We'd do 10-minute technical. We'll do 10-minute physical. Mm-hmm. This will be the game. We'd get all the lactic acid out. We'd run for 20 minutes. Yep. Just a soft, slow little jog just to get the lactic acid out of the legs. So you're ready then physically to go in and tackle and you know, and to do everything that you need to get through that session. Change all the food. Change the diet. We'll tell you to eat slow. We would have to sit there for an hour.
Oh, the chewing thing. Oh, we got that somewhere.
Chew your food. Eat slow.
Was it chew it 12 times before you swallow it?
It was all different. It was all sort of chicken and it was like salads and sauces and just all different types. Pasta, you know, generally 2 or 3 times a week. But it just changed everything. Certain drinks we could Gatorade and all these different drinks, and the lads, some of the lads, Merson and Adams and these guys, these had all done exceptionally well under George Graham. Yeah, and they still had time left in their career. But what Arsene Wenger did was he gave them an extra 2 years by tuning into his methods, his fitness programs, and what he told them to do. Stretch for an hour after training.
Which no one wanted to do that.
Normally after training, the lads go in, they have a shower or a bath, they clean up, a little bit of lunch and bosh.
Yeah.
They're either home, picking their kids up,
do like still burning from the training.
Whatever. But Arsene Wenger, just a simple thing like taking us all into a room at the training ground. He'd stand in the middle and he would just do all his stretches. Start with your arms forward, back, then your shoulders, then your hips, your groins, everything, your calves. You push up the calves. And we'd be in there for about 50 minutes. And for the first couple of weeks, we're like, what's all this about? Come on, I've organised a tee off. But it's fun. Do you know what I mean? But then what happened was we were all going in without the manager. He didn't have to even watch us do it. We would just go and do it anyway because we knew the benefits that we were getting from it, you know. And he definitely, if you speak to the senior lads now, he definitely added them few years onto their careers. They've got Arsene Wenger to thank for that.
Well, I think that's like any team I've been at is trained the same way. Just like the way I think he kind of had that benchmark for
when he first came.
Massive change. Do you know what I mean? Because that's the way most clubs do it now. Well, most clubs I've been to, it's always the stretching.
Well, then you had the Vialis, didn't you, coming in, and then you had Mancini went to Man City, and then you had other managers from foreign countries that would come in. Capello actually went on to manage England, but Arsene Wenger, he was at the forefront of that. You know, that foreign culture, what he brought. So I know a lot of people give the foreigners a lot of sticks. There's far too many foreigners playing our game, come over here. But I just think the likes of Arsene Wenger and one or two of the other managers, they've added so much as well, to the technology of the game.
For sure, because all you need to do is go on holiday to Spain and you see the 60-year-old ladies, the 80-year-old men out jogging, loving life, and they're fit as fiddles. It's just totally different.
Yeah.
They look after themselves, and we need to. We're slowly starting to adapt that in Scotland because we were miles behind. Let's not lie, we were stiff, and you could see it in our. But even Scotland, Ireland, Wales, we were all kind of like British teams. We were all kind of stiff. You could see when we play someone, we're more stiff. Yeah. It's not as dynamic.
I think they say themselves. The great players like Brian Robson and just superstars, Tony Adams, England captain. If he was sat here now, he'd absolutely agree with us. He'd say, I used to go for a liquid lunch after training. I'd be out drinking and I'd turn up, half drunk and I'd get through the session. that all stopped. That all stopped because the mindset changed.
Yeah.
People's mindset changed because they think, I don't want to do that anymore. I want to live properly. I want to perform better on a Saturday for these fans who pay my wages. But it's all about education as well. But unless anybody educates you and sits you down and shows you how to do it,
you don't know, do you?
You don't know. And then you've got to be consistent. And that's when you, as a person, have got to take it on board then.
Yeah.
It's okay being shown it and educated it. But if you're not wanting to listen, and go and do it yourself, then, you don't got much chance.
And we have to be accountable for that. Or footballers have to be accountable for that. So you're talking about the kind of poor culture, right? How do you think that's changed from then to now? Because you get Lee Griffiths or Morelos probably wouldn't do it, or Arfield, and they're going out for a liquid lunch. They're probably on Instagram the next day, getting slated. He's drinking on a Monday before our game on Saturday. Do you know what I mean? Like, I
think there's a time and a place. I don't think you can live like monks.
Oh, definitely not.
I think there's a time when you can go and have a meal with your wife or your partner or even the lads. There's a time when you can have a couple of beers at the right time in the right company. After a good win or whatever else. Not during a lockdown, by the way.
No, definitely not.
No, not at all.
Don't be going to Spain.
But there's opportunities for that. But I think what you got to be careful of now is obviously everywhere you go, you're
Big
like,
Brother's watching.
You're like an ambassador now for your football club. There's huge responsibility. These young kids coming through, you're their hero. They have pictures of you on their bedroom wall. They will copy their heroes and things like this. And I think it's good that you have to try and set a good example nowadays more than ever because of social media.
Of course,
everything now is the newspapers. Everything's online now. Everything is I was at a service station a couple of months ago. I was going to do a dinner, and I pulled into a service station in Huddersfield.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm coming out of the service station. I've signed a few autographs with Cardiff City supporters and everything else. I signed some autographs. And I jumped back in my car to head further up north. And my wife sent me a text. She says, "What are you doing in Huddersfield?" And I was like, I'm just on the way to the dinner. She says, "I've just gone on John Hartson, your Twitter feed, and it's all over all your pictures you've had with it." Like within 10 minutes, I'm in my car.
Mm-hmm.
So if you go into a pub, or if you try and hide, or if you do whatever, everything now
you can't hide now
is on social media. You
and
know,
that obviously that
whereas 20 years ago, you could almost come out of a nightclub, go into a kebab shop, flag a taxi down. You don't see that.
No one would be there.
And that's probably good for the game.
Yep.
It's probably good, for the general football culture.
Yep.
But it has changed an awful lot, and for the right reasons as well.
So you say there it's good for the game, which of course it is, Do you think footballers, they're very isolated now, aren't they? Do you think that's good for their mental health? How isolated and how kind of watched they are and how they have to go about life, kind of maybe not enjoying it as they could be, and they might be scared to go certain places now, especially in Scotland or in Glasgow.
I think it's an individual thing. I think some footballers are extremely dedicated and quite happy to go back to their apartment and join their wife and their children. Yeah. We're not all the same. We're all built differently. Mm-hmm. We've all got different mentality. Yeah. In terms of mental health, and I don't want to duck mental health because it's a huge problem, and people are generally struggling through mental health, anxiety, everything else. But for me, I think as well, in terms of trying to live your life, I think sometimes you can be put under a little bit too much pressure. And I think it's talking, isn't it? If you've got any problems, it's talking, and it's having people to understand your problems as well. Yeah. It's having a manager or having somebody at the club that you can turn to and talk to. A lot of people that have suffered through mental health will turn around and say, "Well, I didn't have anybody to talk to. Mm-hmm. I couldn't turn to him. Yeah. But I think there's so much advice. There's so much great work that's gone on with people that are suffering through mental health. It's easier. Well, I say it's easier. There's still a lot of people suffering through mental health. But I think there's more people now that understand it. Yeah. And that can only be a good thing for not just in football, but Tony Adams opened up the Sporting Chance Clinic down in Southampton area there. And that's full of rugby players, cricketers, basketball players. It's just sports people in general, especially the ones who retire.
It's magic.
And
it's tough. I suffered a lot when I played. That's what Flip the Mindset's about, is for raising awareness and giving people a platform of hope, struggling with the pressures of modern society. So it's that way where any team I was in, or any team for most people I know, and I talk to a lot of footballers now through Flip the Mindset who will contact me who are struggling. Loads of them. And it's still, the good work is being done, but I still don't think nowhere near enough. But I don't think that's necessarily clubs' faults for they will get someone in. But from the managers down to the players, it's not really still accepted. I couldn't tell anyone because people just go, I think one time I said something to someone, cheer up, mate, we need to go and win this game. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then...
But you know what? You're not wrong in saying that, because that comes to you, that's your natural, you're positive, come on, Chip, but you're not meant to understand what he's going through, are you? Because he's not told you, he's not shown any signs.
Yeah, I know, but...
So you can't beat yourself up for... You know what I mean? People...
When he said that to me, it's put me in a terrible place, because I'm like, obviously, because at the time I'd just lost my brother and stuff, and I'm going out, and I was struggling big time. And that's what he said to me. He says, chin up, mate, we need to go and win this game. And I remember being on the game, and I'm thinking, even my team aren't there for me. And having anxiety or mental health disorders can make you feel like that, and then you can start almost destroying yourself from within just by these things. Instead of saying, listen, what's up? Listen, after the game, man, we'll get a wee walk, we'll talk about it. There was none of that. There was no. Yeah. It was almost like, and many people say this these days, almost like you've got 24 young boys at any age in a football team. Maybe not at the top, because they've got a lot more in place. 24 young boys, and you've got 2 managing men. the boys say nothing to them and they don't speak up. There's maybe one or two of the hard defenders that will, no, how do you do this?
Some kids can't deal with that. They can't deal with speaking in front of a group.
Mm-hmm.
They are isolated, and when the manager is saying to them, right, your turn, get up, and he generally struggles, I think then it's important that that particular manager or that particular staff, somebody recognises that this boy needs a bit more help.
Yeah.
And that's where they not just say, right, go on, move over. I can't believe you didn't speak today. What's wrong with you? Come on, grow a pair. Do you know what I mean? You can't do that. I think a lot of that has gone on in the past.
Yeah.
But I think that there's improvements being made. I've definitely been depressed in my life. I've had a divorce. I come through cancer. I'm on top of a gambling addiction. I'm 9 years clean from my last bet. And things have happened to me. I've been dropped from TV companies. I've been worried about where my next payment's coming from to pay my mortgage, under pressure, feeling that pressure, feeling that anxiety, looking at social media all the time, thinking, what can I do? I can't believe this one's got that. And then you start thinking, where do you go from here?
Yeah.
So there's certain times. Now, one thing I haven't done, maybe is to my detriment, is that I've not really come out and spoken about that side of it, because I've always found my own way out in dealing with it in a personal way. I maybe always got an opportunity after being in a quite a dark place. Things have worked out well for me. Like I went to GA when I was struggling really badly with the gambling. And now I'm in a great place.
That's where you met my Uncle Jazza, wasn't it? James?
I think it was. Yeah, it was, yeah. And, through my own commitment and going to GA and learning about the effects of gambling and learning that it is an illness and it's a serious problem that is causing absolute, just devastation in people's households, with a particular gambler, what he's going through mentally, and it is an illness. And learning about all that, I've come out the other side in terms of that. So I don't know what you say about that in terms of I was in a really bad place, but I managed to find the strength and the commitment to go and get a bit of help and stick to it,
Yeah. So, I absolutely. Stephen, I want to know, or I want to dive into, from the dark place to finding the strength. What goes on in that place? Is it that little bit of fire in your belly from being a footballer, from being that strong, conditioned athlete that thinks, I need to go and get help? Or is it through you're hitting rock bottom and you go a bit lower? Because rock bottom doesn't need to be any particular thing. It doesn't need to be being divorced or losing someone. Your rock bottom time can come anytime, can't it? It can really come through anything. So what was that bit that sparked you to go in it? Because a lot of men right now will be sitting with a big gambling problem like I did before a few years ago, and they'll be sitting. Someone actually messaged me last night about a big debt problem. They'll be sitting right now, and what he said to me last night, I can't see a way out. I don't know where to go from here. What would you say to?
What would I say to that person particularly is that there is always a way out. There's no can't. There is always a way out there. There's help out there. There's some fantastic, talented, brilliant individuals out there that can help you with your problems. There is help. You look at GA. I can't understand why gamblers say, I don't know where to go. I don't know what to do. I'm in debt. I've done this. I've done that. Well, you have to find a GA. There's a Gamblers Anonymous generally set up in most towns, in most villages, cities. GA is massively popular out there. And GA, Gamblers Anonymous, you join that little bit of a fellowship, if you like, that personable sort of meetings. And you don't want to let your pal down who's 6 years clean. Or 25 years clean, or 3 days
becomes
clean.
A brotherhood, doesn't it?
And everybody starts in there. I went into GA and I was John Hartson, this ex-professional footballer, and I was embarrassed. And I actually had to get sat down and somebody said, John, don't be embarrassed because you're just like us. You're a gambler and you need help and you're not very well. And it's only when somebody drums that into you that you actually go, oh, do you know what? I do need help, and I have got a problem, and these guys will help me. You know, and that's, I've kept going, and I still go now. And I'm 9 years. I'm 9 years clean. So without me going to GA, I don't know where I'd be. You know, I don't know where I'd be in life.
In essence, didn't it? Because it kick-started a lot of other things.
Absolutely, because all of a sudden gambling controls, addictions control every movement of your everyday routine. If you're an alcoholic, the first thing you think of when you wake up in the morning is, where can I find my next drink?
Alcohol.
If you're a drug abuser, where can I go and get my next hit?
Yeah.
If you're a gambler, where can I go to get my next bet?
I remember waiting till 12 o'clock till my paycheck came in. It came through into my bank. 12:05, I'm signing on to Ladbrokes to play the slots. You know, it eats up, and people. There's a huge stigma. I done a post about this last week on gambling awareness. There's a huge stigma that people just do not see it as an illness. There's almost a huge ignorance towards it. They don't think it's the same as alcohol. It's being addicted to alcohol or being addicted to narcotics or anything like that. And that is what I feel needs to change. We need to crush that stigma. It is an illness, you know, it's a condition. It's not because you're extremely selfish, you're this, you're that, and you just like spending money or spending other people's money. It's not because you just want to. It's not because it's because you are addicted. It's like anything. There's all sorts of addictions, isn't there? There's porn addiction. There's all sorts of addictions out there.
And if you are gambling, Kenny, if you are gambling recklessly, from experience, there's only one place that you're going to end up, and that will be on your own. Because your wife, no matter how many chances she's given you, how many times you've let her down, how many times you've told her lies, ultimately she'll crack and you'll be on your own.
Yeah, you're ruining their life too.
Ultimately, you know, you'll steal, you won't be able to pay the mortgage, be kicked out of your house. What you do. So if you're not getting help, right, as a reckless, compulsive gambler, you are only going to end up at rock bottom.
Absolutely.
There is no other place that you're going to end up. But the situation is, if you understand a little bit that I've got a problem here, and I'm reckless, I'm gambling every penny, I'm telling so many lies, I'm starting to believe in my own lies now. I don't know where my next pound's coming from. I'm in so much debt. I've got people knocking the door, I've got people chasing me, I'm hiding on the corner when people are coming down the street. That's no way to live your life.
It's brutal.
That's a horrible way to live your life. You've then got to find it within yourself to go and get some help and speak to people. And that's why GA is there.
And that's important, guys. I'm talking to you if you're in this position. You have to find that strength to get help. You have to have that, put that bit of belief in yourself that, you know, things will get better if you make the positive choices and the positive actions towards that. I think with me, I was in all them positions just as you. You know, I was taking money from the house that my mum had saved up or whatever. I was going and spending it. I was playing football at the time, you know, and I'm sitting on a bookies from 9 o'clock, you know, until 10 o'clock at night when they closed. I was the last one out, not eating all day, you know, smelling in my clothes, you know, and you know, everyone who knows me, I don't care about money. I've not got a big, you know, I'm not a materialistic guy, as we were talking before. It was just the losing and the feeling and the addiction, and it was a place to escape. But we need to be really strong about that. If you're in that position, you need to get help, because if I didn't go and get help, I would probably not be here.
And as low as you are, Kenny, as low as you are, it's got to come from within, unfortunately. You know, you can have people talking to you, drumming it into your head, you've got to go and get help, you've got to stop doing this, you've got to stop gambling. But at some stage, you've got to get yourself up and get yourself to a meeting or to get help. And if you don't want help, if you don't think you've got a problem, then don't bother. It's only when you actually come to that acceptance and go, do you know what? I think I'm beaten here. I'm beat. I need help. I need help for me, first of all. You've got to do it for you, first and foremost. Because I know if I'm right, everything else is right. You know, my wife is okay. My kids are right, because I'm able to, if I'm in a good place, everything around you is better. Do you know what I mean? But that's the key, because you've got to find it yourself from somewhere. there's always a little bit of fight in there. Don't
It
care
is
what
there,
you've been,
yeah.
what you've gone through.
We ignore it, don't we?
Yeah,
Mate, you were
and
part of the
that's key.
gam block, weren't you? And remember the don't, what was it?
Gamble
the fun stops.
responsibly, yeah. When the fun stops, stop.
I hated that sign.
Yeah.
I used to look at that sign when I'm on one of the fob machines, and I'm like, you're the guy covering one eye. I didn't want to see that sign. You're running from it, aren't you? Because I'm just believing my own rubbish.
And I think it's important as well from experience that I would never tell. I can give people advice if they ask for it, but I would never actually tell anybody to stop, because you've got to find that yourself. Because lots of people used to tell me to stop. Yeah. My agents, my parents, my wife, my managers, my teammates, all my friends. Oh, John, where are you going to the bookies for? Stay there, have a pint. Oh, there's a bookies next door. I'd make sure whenever I went into a pub, they had a TV, because otherwise I'd have to have a bet, and it was things like that. And and I didn't listen to anybody. But then I got to a situation where I thought, I need to do something.
It gets to the point where we're almost brainwashed, John, isn't it? I mean, in Shettleston, I think it's Shettleston Road, every 0.3 or every 0.2 miles or something, I think there's 11 in a row. Bookmakers. Yeah. Everywhere we've all had that Grand National bet with our papa, with our uncle.
It was like the online betting, wasn't it?
8 or 10.
The numbers were...
Yeah, and then we've all... everything on TV is a gamble now. Do this and you win this. All the TV shows off, you've got a chance to win this. Lorry drivers, particularly, lorry drivers are spending maybe 80 quid a day. It's not a known thing, but 80 quid a day on the phone-in.
I think the governing bodies have to do more in terms of all the advertising. Maybe cut the advertising down, and advertising on football shirts and things like this, and the advertising boards around the grounds and the adverts at half time, and it's just mental. And the only people that have got power to stop it are the government, if they just pull it. But
and from what I've heard,
I think as well though, Kenny, a lot of these football clubs are taking good money from.
They're getting good money.
And they'll tell you that's what pays our players' wages. So how do you get on top of this?
It's a rotating wheel, isn't it? I mean, I know that I think I read somewhere the gambling companies, or the money from gambling companies, from bookies, is in the top 5 of the government funding sources. So they fund a lot of the government, and that's why the government obviously would never stop them. So that surely that just doesn't sit right with me at all.
No, well, Ladbrokes have actually made the decision to pull out all their sponsorship of Scottish football now, haven't they?
You might have had a wee...
No, not really. Well, I didn't, but obviously the governing bodies and they have actually led the way in terms of the sponsorships and everything else, and that's what Ladbrokes said. So hopefully they will ask the other companies to do the same and to do something about it, because I don't think that can be helpful. No, because it's so easy now. It's so easy to put a bet on. It's
almost takes over your life. It consumes you from within. I was lying. I'm lying to the missus. I'm lying to my mum.
Oh, you do?
I'm lying that this bill's come in, and they've charged me for this. I've got a bank charge for that. I'm then saying, can you give me money to buy this? And I'm just boom, straight to the bookies. And it's really bad because you hate yourself.
Compulsive addicts are compulsive liars.
Oh, yeah.
And we're very good.
You become good at it. You become almost your own mastermind. Not to boast. I see a lot of gamblers talking in podcasts, and they're almost talking about it in a boasty way of what they do, but that's what you become. You become the master of your own secret.
And when you go to GA and you hear some of the stories, some of the people coming in for the first time, and they sit there and they tell you what they've done or what's happened to them, or they've stolen the life savings of the children, or they've stolen things that they're getting married next year, and the wedding money that's put aside for the honeymoon, and they've gambled that. It actually frightens you. And it just makes you wonder, I am never having a bet again. Yeah. That story, I had the hairs on the back of my neck standing up there listening to that guy there, what he's been through. And there's nobody to blame, he's not very well.
He's been ill, it's not like he wanted to hurt people.
But they actually do fright. Some of the stories, some of the experiences that you get through going to GA, incredible.
And some people will be watching this thinking, gambling, it's just a selfish thing. You can help yourself. You don't need to spend your money. Educate yourself on it, and understand, because there might be someone close to you who's struggling right now, and your understanding of the issue or the illness will make a massive benefit and could in turn save someone's life. So you've had some very rich experiences in life. You've had it all. You've done it all. You've went through everything, good and bad. You know, you've got a rich wealth of experience, and I want to touch on, we all are petrified of the C word, aren't we?
Yeah.
Cancer.
Yeah.
For a while, people wouldn't even, it was like Harry Potter, Voldemort. You know, the Voldemort, it was like, I don't know if you've ever watched Harry Potter, and they were like, who was it? Who did they used to say in Voldemort? It was, they used to call him,
You've got me there, Kenny. You've got me.
Oh, you don't watch Harry Potter? Oh, no.
Well, sometimes I watch the odd film. The kids have had it on something.
He who will not be named. And that's what it reminds me of, because something at school, we wouldn't talk about it. See, the C word was mentioned, we're all like, you know what, it became a real taboo, and I think
it's not a word to take lightly, is it?
No.
You know, cancer, it's not a bug, or it's not an illness, or it's not a flu or a disease. Cancer kills people.
Yeah.
It's a killer.
Yeah.
It's the biggest killer of men in the UK.
Yeah.
Is cancer, prostate cancer, testicular cancer, lung cancer. There's all, you know. And when I found out that I had cancer,
talk me through that moment, that exact moment, if you can remember, and what you were thinking.
I didn't feel very well. I put a lot of weight on around my chin, and I was drinking heavily, and I was probably 3 or 4 stone overweight, and I can remember I had a lump on one of my testicles, and I went to get a scan, like a diagnosis. When I was eventually diagnosed, you know, the specialist at the hospital said to me, he put it up on like a screen, and he said to me, "Look, John, you have a tumour there. You have a tumour, and it's getting bigger." And I just thought, you know. And then he said to me, over the next 3 or 4 months, he says, "You're going to go through some rigorous treatment." Yeah. He said, "And I'd like to wish you well." And I thought, it was like him saying bye-bye to me.
Already, before
because the cancer had spread through my body. And it was almost like, and I went into the car park of the hospital, and I just sat on my own, and I just cried for about 3 hours, like on my own, just coming to terms with like what he just told me. I just could not believe that the testicular cancer, I had a tumour in my scrotum, and it spread up to my lungs and onto my brain. And I went home, I told my wife, and it was horrendous. And I'm not the only person to have had this experience. Mm-hmm. There's millions and millions of people that have gone and been diagnosed and had to go home and explain to their wife and explain to the kids. And a lot of them people don't come back, you know. They don't make it, you know. And I just feel incredibly blessed, incredibly lucky. So I've spent 6 weeks in hospital. You know, I had 2 brain operations that I was able to sort of come through that, really, because, you know, it's still quite tough. But, you know, I was just really, because I don't think that when you're in hospital, people say, "Oh, you're a fighter, you know, fight your way through it." But I just think, you need a lot of luck. I just think the chemotherapy needs to work. It needs to have effect on the cancer. Yeah. I had a fantastic oncologist that sort of led me through everything. Yeah. What I needed to do, when I needed to have a brain operation, when I needed to rest, when I was allowed visitors, when I weren't, when I was allowed to have a walk up. And you need somebody to take you and to guide you through it. And I had all that. I had all that in abundance. I had a fantastic family, very supportive, very strong family. You know, I had my children, obviously, to fight for as well. Yeah. So, you know, I just felt very, very blessed to have come through. And why and how I come through, I just don't know, because I was in a really bad place at one stage, you know.
How do you... I mean, as I told you before this, we climbed Ben Nevis for Jennifer Bell, who's suffering with the motor neuron. She got 9 months to live. March 2019. Mm-hmm. She's still here. She's an inspiration. She's done so much and raised so much awareness, just like yourself.
And I was always thinking, I never asked her, of course, at the time, but I was always thinking to myself, how do you find the light in the day when you are lying in the bed in the hospital? She's in Marie Curie now, but how do you find the light? Where does that come from? Obviously, being an athlete and being healthy, and all the years of fitness would have helped you through it.
Yeah.
And that would have given you the best chance of survival. And as you say, many people would not be sitting here, another day, you wouldn't be sitting here with me today, and you've got kids, you're on your hospital bed, she's got 2 kids, you had kids. Where does it come from? What's going through your head?
It's horrific. There's no other word. And I don't know. I don't know. I really don't know how you beat cancer. All I know is that I was just lucky. I was praying a lot. I had my children to live for, my wife, my parents. So
you're doing great, big man. You're doing great.
I just don't know. People say to you, how'd you get through it? How'd you beat it? It's like, because what I find is that people say, well, nobody's ever passed away through cancer and come back and told us how to beat it. It's physically. So when people do go, it's like and I was very young. I was only 33 at the time. It was 34. Sorry, 11 years ago now. And you say there, when you see the light and stuff, you're just thinking of the worst at times. And some days you have good days. You're positive and you feel good. You're a little bit off your food, and you go through your chemotherapy and things like that. And I was all right because I didn't have any hair to lose, so I was all right.
Aye.
I just lost my eyebrows. But no, it's really not a nice place to be in. And I'm so grateful, and I'm so lucky and blessed that I was able to come through that really dark time in my life. Where probably wasn't living my life properly. I was taking a lot of liberties with my health, and so if there's any sort of positivity to come out of it, the way I've kicked on since beating the cancer, in terms of my media work and in terms of setting up the John Hartson Foundation, and we've helped such a lot of people, hospitals, different types of cancer sufferers, and hospices and everything else. I'm very proud of that. So again, when you talk about cancer, it makes me very emotional because I was so close to losing my battle at one stage. Yeah. And whenever I talk about it, I'm a big emotional git anyway. I'll cry at a Disney film if I'm sitting at home with my kids.
I think that's really important, John, because that's something I'm campaigning and raising awareness on massively now. That men cry. I had a cry yesterday. I put on my social media, and it's a huge stigma, men's mental health, and you've came through so much stuff. Your mental health must have been, for a long time, really, really poor. Not because you were maybe a bad place, but because so much was happening to you. You're going to be in that really lonely,
absolutely
isolated.
But I don't know, Ken. I don't know what mental health. What does it do to you? How does it make you feel? I was depressed. I was down. I was worried. I was anxious. I was worried about my divorce, not seeing my kids. I was worried about what I'd done, the money I'd lost. I was worried about so many things, and then I believe through all that, being reckless, being carefree, it was like, I believe it played a huge part in bringing on the cancer. Stress. They say stress is one of the worst sort of things that happen to people that brings on illnesses. Yeah. If you're constantly stressed and worried about anything, any sort of worries, households, when you got families, my daughter gets on at school every morning. She gets on the bus, and then I worry about her getting off the bus because she's got to cross the main road. Yeah. I want to go up and meet her off the bus. My wife's like, no, leave her. She's fine. She has to learn, this things like that. It's just certain things that just because you're a father and you care about things and you got a bit of empathy with people and what happens in the world, and that's what it's like.
It is. It's tough, and people are still trying to differentiate from having poor mental health and just going through life. A lot of the older generation will just go, that's just life, which was a problem for young people growing
probably
up.
Like me, my dad's a big strong man, done scaffolding, done the doors and work, big monster of a man, and you don't want to open up too much.
So he's saying that there, like my papa, big strong man, so he's saying it's just life. He would, if I told him, he would know, but I had it well. So
and you're a footballer.
Yeah, like,
and people
you've got it good,
idolise you, and you don't want to show that weakness, and you don't want to,
Their world's back there, and we've went into the technology era, into the madness era. It's crazy.
I say to people now with the gambling, talk to people, tell people, but I didn't do it.
Yeah.
So, a little bit of hypocrisy there, really, because I didn't do it. I sort of let it all build up. And luckily, I'm still here. But there was times with me that, there was times when I was very down and things like that. And you just find your way out of it.
What about, we do a lot of it, Suicide Prevention Month in September, my birthday month. And I'm going to be doing a lot of that with a girl from Australia, a big mindset coach. And we're going to be doing stuff. But if that time you've got so many different elements to your life going wrong, you've got the gambling addiction, the illness, you've got the cancer, or at what time, or was it any time you're sitting saying, I can't do this anymore. Whatever I do, I'm trying, I'm lost, because I know for a fact in Scotland in particular, there's thousands of guys doing this right now.
I was lost. I was very lost. Even with the support of my family, I was still very, very lost. But taking my own life, thankfully, never entered my head. No matter, and I know people do it and they have a reason to do it. They must be in a ridiculously
can't even imagine where
bad
been,
place to do that. One of my best mates, Gary Speed, took his own life, and that was just awful, terrible situation for him and his family. I know it happens a lot, but that never crossed my mind at all. No matter how sort of bad things looked at some stage, I always felt I could get out of this somehow. I could fight my way out, or I could be lucky and get my way out, or somebody might just offer me their hand, or somebody might just give me that support. I always held on to that little bit of hope. I think that's probably the right way to say it.
That's what the mindset is, a platform of hope.
And I didn't know any of this because I've not studied it really. So I just held on to that little bit of hope through prayer. But you don't know. You can hope and you can pray and you can still die.
You can run over by a bus when you leave the house.
You need that rub of the green. You need that little bit of luck from the big fella, as a lot of people would say. And I certainly got that bit of luck. My mother says my grandmother.
And I love that you're so honest about it. You're emotional, you're real. You're one of the realest guys on TV, you'll come out, you'll say it how it is, and you'll say it from the heart. You didn't study it, the education, the mindset.
It's just normal, it's just the way I've been brought up, and
and that's it. In a small town like myself, and we've been through a lot of the same things. I was better at football than you, but
you probably were at times. Don't make me even more emotional up, Kenny, whatever you do.
I was terrible. No, it was all right. But we'll take it back to a bit, and we'll bring it back up to the Arsenal. Sorry, not Arsenal. I want to talk about Wales. So they've came on in recent years tenfold, didn't they?
Yeah.
But when you were there, it was you, the late Gary Speed, Giggsy, who carried the team. Let's be honest, you carried the team.
Yeah.
So as a player like that, how does that affect your mentality? How do you prepare then for international games?
Well, you become a leader within that group, really, because you had a lot of young players there, at the time, and players coming through, and I looked up to Mark Hughes and I looked up to Ian Rush and Dean Saunders and Neville Southall and Kevin Ratcliffe, the senior players before me.
Yeah.
So then when you become a senior player yourself, in your late 20s, 30s, you've got the youngsters like Bale and Ramsey and all these other guys then kept breaking into the side and they're looking for the experienced ones. So that's something like that just come natural to me. And I'm a very, very patriotic, proud Welshman. I'm very proud of my roots. I speak the language, my father, my grandfather. And I just think when you're representing your country, for me, personally, it's the pinnacle.
Yeah.
I don't think you can go any higher in life. Now, you can win awards, you can win player's player, you can score at different grounds, you can score hat-tricks, you can play with wonderful players. You can do all this in a career, which you're thankful for. But representing your country, you're playing for it's your heritage, isn't it?
It's you, isn't it? You're playing for you, your
where
identity.
You're from.
Yeah.
Your grandfather, your great-grandfather, your children. You're putting on that red
your
shirt.
Future, everything.
In front of that amazing crowd at the Millennium Stadium and everything else. And you got that, you got that badge on your chest, and that's your country. Something's got to inspire you. Do you know what I mean? And for me, it was the pinnacle. Every time I played for Wales, I was lucky to make over 50 caps for my country at senior level and played with some world-class players. But it just got me. Playing for Wales, it just really got me, and I was very passionate, proud, and it was the moment that you look up to the crowd and you see your parents, and it's how proud are they to see their boy who was kicking around the ball around the streets at 5, 6, 7 years of age.
Class. And that's, I didn't have I had a mum. I didn't have a dad there when I was younger. It was just my mum. And my mum was always at the sideline. But then when she got a wee bit unwell, she didn't get unwell. She suffered anxiety after my brother dying and stuff happened to her. She couldn't come to my games. So the way down, So but I had my friends there, and I can only imagine that feeling, what that would have been like. I mean, that would just have, been incredible. So I want to talk about a few things. I want to talk about confidence in football. I was watching a podcast, or it might have been a podcast, it might have been on Spotify or YouTube, and you said about you being a confidence man. Yeah. And I like that, because I'm a confidence man. Yeah, if everyone around me is confident, I'm sky high.
When you're confident, you can express yourself more, your words flow. And it's the same on a football pitch. Everybody plays on confidence. Everybody lives on confidence. If you've got no confidence, you won't go into a restaurant and sit down over there in front of people. Confidence is everything. And in a and some people haven't got confidence, they struggle with confidence. And sometimes I do. If I walk into a bar, generally, I'll go to the back. I'll go to the back, and I'm quite shy, believe it or not. Some of my mates will go and, the king of the walk and all this,
there's always
sit
a
at the front, and they'll be brash, they'll be loud. It's a fight over here, mate. I'm actually quite happy to go in the back and
chill out,
make my way in. And by the end of the night, I'm at the front, by the way. But I've had about 5 pints by then. But no, I just think I think we all act on confidence. So it's massive in life, I believe, confidence.
Absolutely agree. And there's different levels of it. As I say, you're going out for something to eat, and it's maybe a wee bit low. You go in the football park, it's higher. So. I believe it's a problem in football as well, because the men, it's not that the world's moved on from where it was. It's not that we're maybe more sensitive. It's maybe that certain things have maybe conditioned men to, with the stigma and stuff, to kind of get affected a lot more, as what I was talking about. Like, they've got the Twitter, the social media, they're getting pounded and all that. So when I was playing football, I'll tell you a story in a minute, but when I was playing, I could see boys' confidences in the dressing room, and you literally... It was like almost a disease with confidence. You know before the game if they're going to have a good game or a bad game. Like they're not sure of themselves, and it can really. So I remember my anxiety was really, really low. My anxiety was through the roof. And I was feeling really low, right? And we played Peterhead at home, right? And we were flying. I think we were second. If we beat them, we went first, right? Now, I was feeling terrible. My knees were jipped, I had a lot of pressure on me. I was recovering from injury, and the manager wasn't very good to us. And I'm on the pitch, right? And it's a rainy night. I can just see it right now. Fog lights are on, right? And I'm thinking to myself, I'm feeling so nervous. I'm so anxious. I've got no confidence. So the ball's coming to me, and that, like the 2-second effect. Call it like blocks and barriers in football. But the ball was coming, and I was 2 seconds behind the game up here. But I was fine there. So I put my foot out, and the ball bounces off me, and then I react. No confidence. I'm away from you. See it in like Morelos just there. Whether that's confidence, or you've seen it in Arsene and Torres after his injury. Things put you off, and then I faked a virus. I faked a virus.
You that
It's
much.
one of the most not shameful bits of my life. It's one of the things I look back and
something made you do that.
And I faked a virus, and I swear to God, I lay in the ground. I did get a wee bit kind of dizzy, but I knew it was my anxiety. And I lay in the ground because I've had a flu. The doctor came and got me, and they stretchered me off the pitch just because I could not, my pride, and I could not be seen to be anxious and no confidence on that pitch to come off, because nobody knew I was struggling. I was hiding it so much. And I know a lot of footballers do this. There was a lot of footballers who would get injured and they wouldn't come back for way long. They would take like an extra 2 months because they were not confident.
And I think as well, when people are confident, it's somebody's given them that bit of confidence as well. And I think sometimes, when football pundits or players or people in general, I think when they go somewhere and they look confident and they are confident, it's because somebody has picked them up at some stage and gone, do you know what? There's no need for you to lack confidence. You're a good-looking guy. You speak well. Everybody loves you. Why are you suffering with confidence? No one's looking at you. You're fine. Do you know what I mean? Somebody somewhere sometimes can give that person a bit of confidence, and it means the world. Do you know what I mean? It means the world.
More,
just a few little kind words or something
can change the whole direction.
I don't think as a nation, as a generally, I don't think we pick people up enough. I think we're quick to knock people, we're quick to slag people
Britain,
off.
we're
quick to abuse people, and this and that. I don't think, that we pick people up enough, Like when you go onto a plane, for instance, right? When you go onto a plane in the morning, and there's 40 people in front of you and you're all taking your seats, you go up there, you go through, you check in, you go through, and then you're going up to the plane. And then there's that little air stewardess there. It was always really nice, right? It's 6 o'clock in the morning and she's there and she's, got a little bit of makeup on and she's there and she's like, good morning. And everybody go, good morning to you. And people just go, how many people actually say to her, oh, good morning, love. How are you today?
Actually,
do you know what I mean?
I actually do. And
it's
sometimes I think people look at you like, who's this creep behind me? You know what I mean?
It's just little things like that. People don't, pick people up.
We're very ignorant that way, aren't we? We're very ignorant. We're almost conditioned to be more. I mean, I'd be brutal with it, just say ignorant, because it is pretty ignorant. But you don't want to say it that way, don't you? You don't want to be kind of seen.
I know. There's a theory that you've got to get yourself right first, and there's an element of that. You've got to get yourself right. But I think when you are right and you're feeling good, just think about how you were when you weren't. And just pick somebody up. Because I've done it to people. I've gone up to people and I've said, "How are you doing, mate? Everything all right?" And I can see his colour in his face and his whole demeanour changes. And I just think, we don't do that enough. And it's only something small, and it will pick people's confidence up. Because confidence is, my kids have difficulty in confidence, especially young. I've got 4 daughters. So, I'm always telling them that they're beautiful and don't worry. And some are more confident than others. It's just life, sometimes. But I just think a little, be nice and, ask people how they're doing.
I absolutely agree. We are very negative as a country. Many people are starting to report that now, which is good. Many people are talking about it.
Because I'm Welsh. I don't want all of Scotland thinking that I'm because I love Scotland.
I'm adding Wales in. But we are, like Britain in general, we are very negative. The media, they just want to hound people and slate people and tear people down.
The media will just build you up.
That has consequence on our youngsters. They're growing up and that's conditioning them when they're older, how they think. We think how the Sun thinks. We think how the Daily Record thinks. There's a huge problem with negativity, especially in Scotland.
Social media as well. It's, I don't think the people at Twitter, I don't think they do enough
they
to stop the abuse and to do anything about it. Because some people deal with it differently, trolls and all this sort of stuff.
It's real brutal.
It can be brutal.
And sometimes it can be your best friend.
I know what you mean. Yeah, there can be positives to it, but about 5% of it is positive.
Literally, there's 1% positive. I remember I was getting trolled on my Instagram. And got my mate to search the IP address, and it was my friend in the gym.
Was it really? Well, that's what it
So
is.
I'll put on my page list and come speak to me before I say.
It's like an invisible thing, isn't it? Because, you could probably send Barack Obama now a tweet.
Yeah.
And unthinkable, he might well just read it.
He could, yeah.
That's the power of, social media.
Everyone has a voice.
But there's people that have no interest in positivity.
No.
They're just literally on social media just to make nuisances of themselves, just to make other people's lives a misery. They never say anything positive.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think that is?
Because they're in such a terrible place themselves.
Absolutely.
That's what it is.
Absolutely.
And they try to bring others down at the same time.
Absolutely. And
they just become bitter and twisted and things
and
like
go
this.
almost to the believing
they can't bring themselves to do anything positive.
Or their account that they made up, they actually start believing they're that person instead, and
you could say it's lovely and shiny outside, and they'd go outside and they'd look at it and say, no, it's raining.
Yeah. So what about, we'll move on to Celtic, your time in Scotland.
Yeah.
We need to speak about that because most of my followers are Scottish and from Glasgow.
They'll be saying, don't spoil this now.
No, but all my mates will tell you, my uncle Duncan Mackay played for Celtic, as I told you. 66, I think he just left the year before the Lisbon Lions.
Yeah.
In Scotland. And so I've always kind of watched them, and I'm not like a bit of fan of anything,
No.
If you win, you lose, that's the way it is. And being us both played football, we know that's how it is, it's more like that. You've moved up to play Scottish football. Now you arrive here and you would have had to adjust because you come up as the Messi of the world. You come up as the Messi of Glasgow. I mean, you might in England just been John Hartson, great player, fantastic player. You come up, you step foot in Glasgow.
I don't know how Messi, but there you are.
No, but you're to Celtic fans or Rangers fans, you are now their Messi. They love like some of my mates. They just even we got Johnny there. He was like
the adulation.
You are their hero because Glasgow. That's it's Rangers or Celtic. You know what I mean? Well, there's other clubs, but for me as a Rangers fan, my heroes were Rangers. I didn't want to be I wanted to be Brazilian Ronaldo, but I wanted to be. I wanted to play for Rangers. I wanted to play like Brian Laudrup. I wanted to do Rod Wallace. No, I wanted to be Michael Moles for so long. I used to have stickers of him everywhere. And
I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, because when I came up to play for Celtic, I didn't quite get it initially because I think the players that are born a Celtic supporter or a Rangers supporter, they get it more because they understand it. They're based in places where there's a lot of following for Rangers and Celtic.
Yeah.
Celtic and Rangers. So I was from Wales. I'm a Welshman. I realise how big Celtic is. I realise how big Rangers are in terms of this general support worldwide.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
It's crazy.
Two of the biggest clubs in the world, fan base and renowned history. And I quickly got it. I quickly got it. In terms of what it means to the support and the adulation in the city. And for me, on a personal level, I played in a wonderful team. I was just a cog in that team, really. In the Larsons and the Suttons, the Lennons, the
Sutton and Larson, that's incredible.
But these players, with a manager like Martin O'Neill as well, tremendous. So I had a good era. I had a good 5 years, really, where we won 3 titles and cups and everything else. And Rangers at that particular time were a very strong team as well. So we used to come head to head and have some great games together. But when I say I didn't get it, it's only when you come and you see there was like thousands of fans outside the ground the day other side. And I played for big clubs. I played for Arsenal and West Ham and London clubs. And nothing like that. You get a couple of press and contracts done in the media. But no, I genuinely had a fantastic time playing for Celtic. I absolutely loved it. I'm very blessed and honoured to have represented, such a great club. With all the fan base. And I can't genuinely go anywhere today, no matter where I go on holiday with my family, whether it's Orlando or Bermuda or a caravan site in South Wales, to have a caravan a week, because that's the only place that I went as a kid was a caravan with my mum and dad and my brother and sisters. But I can't go anywhere now without bumping into a Celtic fan. It's just the same.
It's global, isn't it?
Everywhere you go, they just seem to be everywhere.
Fan base is that big. I mean, for many Celtic and Rangers fans, their life is Rangers or Celtic. They go to work, yes, but they're thinking about Rangers and Celtic. You know what I mean? That's all they think about.
That's right.
And they're not just thinking about Rangers. If you're a Rangers fan, they're also thinking, when are we going to beat Celtic, or when are Celtic going to beat us? It's just that thing you cannot get away from.
You cannot get away with it and get away from it. But that's Scotland, that's Glasgow, and if you want to get away from it, then don't come and sign for Celtic and Rangers, because once you do, you're part of a family.
Yeah.
And you're part of something really special. And they'll never forget you. The fans never forget. Never.
What about what advice would you give to a young player or a young English player who might be...
Don't do it.
who might be scared? Because when I grew up, everyone used to tell me, not that I would have been good enough or anything like that, but they used to tell everyone, don't go and play for Rangers or Celtic, don't sign for Rangers and Celtic when you're too young, because you won't get a chance. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They have to dig in for a few years.
I never really thought of that. I genuinely just thought, Glasgow's a great city. It's a really vibrant city. Lots happening.
Yeah.
And the football really is huge to the city. You know, what other city can fill 250,000 stadiums?
Yeah.
Not many really worldwide.
Yeah.
But as I said, no, I've got nothing but fond memories. That the supporters, I built up an amazing rapport with the fans. I got over 100 goals for Celtic.
110 goals.
Yeah.
3 titles, 2 Scottish Cups, and another
cup. I had a wonderful time, and I put that down to my teammates, and I put it down to the manager, and the support that I got, especially when I retired and to go back to the cancer. The fan mail that I got, and generally mail wishing me well, and from Rangers supporters and Cardiff City and Spurs and rivals of clubs that I played for. Because I think when somebody generally is unwell, or all of a sudden, I think football then becomes second.
Yeah.
I think everybody comes together and
they do.
pulls together, for that particular person, no matter who he plays for, no matter where his allegiances are. But it's quite funny because I think a lot of Celtic people would probably expect me to dislike, or even a stronger word, not particularly, enjoy having any Rangers company or things like that. Lots of fans are generally like that.
We were talking about that earlier,
because,
weren't we?
Because as you know, they're Celtic and they've got their own ways and they've got their own families, and that's absolutely fine.
Yeah.
But I think what people don't realise is that a lot of my friends in Glasgow, my next door neighbour, for instance, Martin, when I lived in Linwood, massive Rangers fan.
Yeah.
And we'd come together, with the kids and everything else. He was a great guy. But he would often say to me, John, you're a great lad. I'm so happy that I got to know you, and our families get on well. We'd go out in the city and have meals and everything.
Yeah.
He'd say, but you do know on Saturday, against Rangers at Ibrox. I'd say, yeah, Martin. He'd say, you do know that I'm going to give you pelters for 90 minutes with all my pals. And it was like, are you really? Well, of course I am. Of course, you're my mate. Of course I am. So there's that other sort of side to it. Where
I think that's what people need to understand, that especially if you're like doing punditry and you're on with Chris Boyd, for example, that you're there as a pundit.
Well, the thing is, I'm employed by Sky.
Exactly.
It's like Chris Sutton goes on BT Sport. He works with Alex Ray and he works with Ali McCoist and things like that.
Yeah.
You don't choose who you work with. I'm enjoying having a role with Sky Sports Television, a massive company, big industry.
Yeah.
And it's a real honour for me to be representing Sky and working with Sky. I don't choose who my fellow pundit is. It's like when I go and do a dinner. If I go and speak at a dinner and I'm speaking with a certain person, I don't book that person. So it's sometimes you get a little bit. People can get onto you about certain things that you do in your life, but I think you've got to be stronger than that, and you've got to live your life. Because otherwise you can be controlled by what other people exactly want you to do.
Well, exactly. Hence, if you wear on with a pundit from Rangers, or a big Rangers man, you both get that in common. You know what it's like if you get on to issues about Scottish players. You know what it's like to play for two of the biggest clubs in the world, essentially. Global fan-based clubs. So that can only be a good thing as well. Do you know what I mean? Showing that there's not all this. There's hate for the game, but there's not all this hate outside it. There's none of that.
You become a Rangers man, or you become a Celtic man. That's basically what you become.
Absolutely.
And there's some people, as you know yourself, will take it to another level, and they'll start the abuse, and they'll start the name calling, and they'll start the the most derogatory things they can possibly say to you and things like this. And then you get the other fan that will join you for the game of golf and say, look, John, I support Rangers, but you know what, mate, you hurt me so many times with the goals that you scored.
You have
do you know what
respect.
I mean? Blah, blah, blah. And you get that as well, which they are obviously a lot nicer to be around than the ones. Because I get it. I get the fact that there's dislike in there. Yeah. But sometimes I feel the only negative I would say about it is that sometimes it goes back, and people have their own feelings, which is absolutely fine. Yeah. But sometimes it can just be a little bit outrageous, in terms of the rivalry, I think. But
of course, you're not a robot. You're a human being.
Yeah.
You were great at football. You worked hard. Mm-hmm. You scored a lot of goals. You just happened to sign for Celtic. You could have signed for us. You happened to sign for Celtic. It's our fault. You say I'm a non-biased fan. I'm kind of open that way. I'm not really.
It was one of the better medicals that I failed.
Yeah, because it smashed it. I'm sure you would have been a superstar for us as well. Listen, I didn't watch football for them 3 years, then 5 years. No, but I think people have got to understand it's most of the fans do have that respect for other players. I have respect for them. As I told you, I looked up to you and Henrik Larsson when I was growing up, and strikers, because I wanted to be the best I could be. It wasn't about whether I wanted to be the best. I looked up to Michael Moles, so many players. And when I got a video, I remember at Queen's Day, I went down to Gibson's. Do you remember those shop Gibson's? So Gibson's. And I've got in, and there's Henrik Larsson, tongue-in-cheek, best 100 goals or something like that. I took a pounder off my mates. That's no word of a lie.
Everyone was a goal of the season contender.
Yeah, no word of a lie. It was phenomenal. Head, foot, bum, back of the net. Training the next few weeks, I started getting better. I'm watching this game. I'm watching this video. Yeah. What's he doing? How's he moving for the header? How's he? Okay, he's shaking him off. He's doing this. He's back up there. And I think, what about that technique? His free kicks and that. And then I'm doing that at training. People are going, you've been practicing that. I'm not going to say, I off Henrik Larsson. Do you know what I mean? But these
things never speak to you again. They wouldn't pick you.
Punched out, man. You know what I mean?
A lot of that goes on.
It's important to say that, there's a lot of respect there as well. And there is people with hatred. I think people that take it too far, they're filling voids. They're poor mental health. You're not going to do that if you're not in poor mental health, unless you're an absolute person.
Listen, I'm the Swansea City supporter.
I know you're not. And then
you're
a Celtic man.
The big rivals are Cardiff, and it's very similar. If I'm walking through Cardiff, and we get the odd one or two.
You get the Fenerbahce rivalry.
But generally, when I was ill, I had a lot of mail from Cardiff City fans saying, "John, I hated you as a player, but you know what? I really wish you well. You represented Wales." That's nice when people say that.
I always find it weird that people have to start it with that. You see this everywhere. Someone comes on and they're struggling with it, goes, absolutely detested him. I want to wish you well on your
I know. And people go, people go that to me, hey big man, excuse you, actually, big man, I'm a Rangers fan, by the way, but I think you're great. And I'm like, why do you have to tell me?
Why does it need to say it? It's like
I'm a Swansea City fan.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Exactly. But listen, John, before you go, any word of advice for people struggling with the pressures of modern societies these days, or finding themselves in some of the situations you were in? You had such a rich, vast, you had plenty of experience through everything that some people won't even face in life, John.
Well, Kenny, I'm no expert, but what I would say to people is, don't suffer in silence. I think it's important to be honest, especially if you've got problems and you've got some mental health issues and suffering with a bit of anxiety, a bit of depression, a bit of loss of confidence. There's always a way out. There's always somebody that will be willing to speak to you. There are professional help out there now, more than ever, and always seek that little bit of help. Don't suffer on your own. Where you're sinking deeper and deeper and deeper into that dark place. There is always a way out, as we've both shown in our lives. So as I said, don't suffer in silence, and share it with somebody. Go and speak to people.
Yeah, I think you're an absolute gentleman, John, and you're an inspiration. All right, elbows. We can't shake.
Mate, no problem.
Thank you for coming on.
All right, I've thoroughly enjoyed it, mate. It was good.
Thank you.